Leo hated three things in life: early morning lectures, cheap instant ramen, and cats. To Leo, cats were nothing but arrogant, fur-covered parasites that looked at humans like they were disposable servants. His classmate, William, was the exact opposite. William was the campus golden boy, tall, infuriatingly handsome, and obsessed with anything that meowed. The two had been rivals since freshman year, mostly because William once pointed out that Leo's messy hair made him look like a grumpy kitten. It was a Tuesday, and Leo was fuming. He'd just failed a pop quiz, and who was the only one to get a perfect score? William, of course. As Leo stomped through a narrow alleyway shortcut, a small, scruffy orange cat jumped onto a trash can, letting out a loud, piercing meow. "Shut it, you fur ball!" Leo snapped. The cat didn't move, it just stared at him with eerie, glowing green eyes. As it stepped closer to rub against his leg, Leo's frustration boiled over. He didn't hurt the thing, but he gave it a sharp, shooing kick toward a cardboard box. "Get lost. I don't have time for bad luck." The cat landed on its feet, tail twitching. It didn't run. It just sat there, watching him with an expression that looked suspiciously like a smirk. The next morning, Leo's alarm blared. He reached out to smash the snooze button, but his hand felt heavy and soft. What the? Leo tried to speak, but what came out was a pathetic, high-pitched meow. He froze. He looked at his arm. Or rather, what used to be his arm. It was covered in thick, ginger fur. At the end sat a plush, white-toed paw. "No, no, no, no," he screamed, but it sounded like a frantic series of chirps. He scrambled to the floor, his four legs tangling together like a newborn giraffe. He sprinted to the full-length mirror, his heart drumming against his tiny ribs. Reflecting back at him wasn't the handsome, disgruntled college student he knew. It was a round, fluffy, orange kitten with a white patch on its chest. "I'm a cat," Leo thought, his little ears flattening against his head. "I'm a literal parasite. This is a nightmare. This is a cosmic joke." The door creaked open. Leo's older brother, Kevin, walked in holding a basket of laundry. "Leo, you up? You're gonna be late for..." Kevin stopped, looking at the empty bed. Then, his eyes landed on the orange kitten sitting on the rug, looking up with wide, terrified eyes. "Mew. Kevin, it's me. Help." Leo scrambled toward his brother's leg. "Whoa, where did you come from?" Kevin backed away, looking disgusted. "Leo, did you bring a stray home? You know I'm allergic to these things." Kevin looked around the room. "Leo, you in the bathroom?" Silence. Kevin's face turned red. "That idiot. He leaves a cat in the house and goes to class." "I don't think so." Kevin grabbed a thick towel, swooped down, and scooped Leo up. "Hey, let me go. I'm your brother." Leo hissed, but to Kevin, it was just angry kitten noises. Kevin marched to the front door, opened it, and set the towel down on the sidewalk. "Go on. Shoo. If Leo wants a pet, he can get a goldfish." Slam. Leo spent the next 5 days learning that the streets are not a playground. They are a war zone. Day 1. Leo tried to reason with a pigeon over a discarded crust of bread. The pigeon pecked his nose so hard he did a backflip into a puddle. Day 2. A Great Dane chased him up a telephone pole. Leo stayed there for 8 hours, crying until his voice went hoarse. Day 3. It rained. Leo discovered that wet fur weighs roughly 5,000 pounds. He looked less like a kitten and more like a drowned rat with an attitude problem. Day 4. He tried to beg for food from a lady at a cafe. She said, "Aw, look at the grumpy little thing," and gave him a piece of broccoli. Broccoli. Leo considered ending it all right then. Day 5. He was starving, shivering, and huddled under a parked car near the university gates. His orange fur was matted with grease and dust. "I give up," Leo thought, resting his chin on his paws. "I'm going to die under a Toyota Camry. And William is going to win the valedictorian spot by default." Suddenly, the sound of familiar, expensive sneakers clicked on the pavement. A shadow fell over the car. "Oh, goodness. What do we have here?" Leo's ears perked up. He knew that voice. It was smooth, calm, and belonged to the man he hated most. William knelt down on the wet asphalt, completely unbothered by his designer jeans touching the dirt. He reached a hand under the car. "Hey there, little guy. You look like you've had a rough week." "Mew." Go away, William, leave me to my misery, Leo grumbled, but he didn't have the energy to run. William's eyes softened. You're so tiny. And so, angry looking. You actually remind me of someone I know. He reached further, his fingers gently scruffing Leo's neck. The warmth of William's hand was traitorous. Leo's body, betraying his soul, began to vibrate. He was purring. There we go, William whispered, pulling the shivering kitten out into the light. He tucked Leo inside his warm, wool coat, right against his chest. You're coming home with me. I think I'll call you, Angel. Leo's eyes bugged out. Angel. Seriously. He tried to bite William's thumb, but he was so tired he just ended up sucking on it. Yeah, you're definitely a feisty one, William laughed, hugging the kitten closer. Let's get you a bath and some tuna. Leo groaned internally. He was now the pet of his greatest rival. But as the warmth of William's heartbeat lulled him to sleep, he had one final thought. If he tries to put a bell on me, I am scratching his eyes out. William's apartment was exactly how Leo imagined it would be, suspiciously clean, smelling of expensive sandalwood, and filled with textbooks that made Leo's head ache just looking at them. Welcome to your new kingdom, Angel, William announced, setting the scruffy orange ball of fur down on a marble kitchen island. Leo's tiny paws slid on the cold surface. Mew. It's Leo, you arrogant giraffe. Put me down. William didn't hear a protest, he heard a musical chirp. Hungry already? Let's see what we have. William opened a cupboard filled with, Leo couldn't believe it, organic, grain-free, wild-caught salmon pâté. Only the best for a little lady, William murmured, patting Leo's head. Leo froze mid-lick. Lady. He looked down at his, well, he couldn't exactly check easily, but he was 100% certain he was still a he. You smell like a literal dumpster, sweetheart, William said, wrinkling his perfect nose. Time for a spa day. Leo tried to bolt, but his kitten legs were no match for William's long reach. 5 minutes later, Leo was hovering over a bathroom sink filled with warm water and lavender-scented bubbles. No. Stop. Water is the enemy. Leo shrieked, his claws coming out like tiny switchblades. Splash. Ouch. Hey. William laughed, his white shirt now clinging to his chest as Leo thrashed. Easy, princess. It's just soap. William was surprisingly gentle. He used a soft washcloth to scrub away the street grime, his large hands carefully supporting Leo's tiny frame. Against his will, the warm water felt okay. But Leo had a reputation to uphold. He waited until William leaned in close to rinse his ears, and then, shake. Leo vibrated his entire body with the power of a pneumatic drill. Ack, my eyes. William sputtered, covered in soapy kitten water. Meow meow. Take that, valedictorian. Leo gloated, standing proudly in the sink like a wet, orange rat. After the bath, William wrapped Leo in a heated, microfiber towel. He looked like a tiny ginger burrito. Now, let's fix those daggers, William said, pulling out a pair of professional pet nail clippers. Leo struggled. You touch my claws and all. Clip, clip, clip. In 3 minutes, Leo's lethal weapons were rounded and harmless. He felt emasculated. He felt defeated. He felt soft. And now, William said, his eyes gleaming with a terrifying excitement, the finishing touch. I stopped by the pet boutique on the way home. He pulled out a small, shimmering object from a shopping bag. Leo's heart stopped. It was a bright pink, ruffled princess dress with a sparkly tutu and a matching bow. You're going to be the prettiest girl on campus, William cooed. Meow, meow, meow. Leo screamed, backing away into the corner of the sofa. I am a man. I study calculus. I hate pink. William misinterpreted the frantic screaming as pure feline joy. Oh, you love it. I knew it. You're so excited you can't even stand still. With a bit of wrestling and a few more scratches to William's forearms, Leo was stuffed into the dress. The tutu puffed out around his tiny waist, and the pink bow was tied firmly between his ears. Leo caught his reflection in the glass coffee table. He looked like a flamboyant marshmallow. I will destroy everything you love, Leo vowed, his green eyes burning with a vengeful fire. He turned his attention to William's prized possession, a genuine Italian leather sofa that probably cost more than Leo's tuition. Leo began to dig his now blunt claws into the leather, hopping up and down in a fit of rage. Rip, stuff, shred. William walked back into the room with a camera. Oh, look at you. You're dancing. You're so happy in your little dress that you're kneading the sofa. Are you making biscuits for me, Simba? Leo stopped mid-shred. Making biscuits. Meow. I am destroying your property, you idiot. Leo screamed, jumping onto William's chest and trying to bite his chin. William just giggled, actually giggled, and caught him in a hug. Kisses. You want to give me kisses? You're so much sweeter than that grumpy Leo guy from my class. He'd probably bite me too, but it wouldn't be this cute. Leo froze. He thinks I'm cuter than myself. Stay right there, William said, picking up his phone. I have to take a picture of this and post it. Everyone needs to see my new princess. Click. Leo sat there, trapped in a pink tutu, realizing that his enemy didn't just adopt him, he had turned him into a social media prop. That night, William climbed into bed and patted the pillow next to him. Come here, Simba. It's cold tonight. Leo wanted to sleep on the floor. He wanted to sleep in the sink. He wanted to sleep anywhere but near William. But the bed was so big, and the duvet was so fluffy, and his kitten body was so very small and cold. He crawled up onto the bed, dragging his pink tutu behind him like a cape of shame. He curled up as far away from William as possible. Good night, little princess, William whispered, reaching out to scratch the spot right behind Leo's ear. Purr, purr. No, Leo thought, his eyes wide. Stop vibrating. Traitorous lungs. Stop it. But as William's rhythmic breathing filled the room, Leo found himself drifting off, realizing that being William's princess came with some very high-quality blankets. The next morning, Leo woke up to the sound of a very energetic pop song and the smell of expensive French roast coffee. For a moment, he forgot he was a four-legged furball. He tried to stretch his arms, but instead, his hind legs kicked his own ear. Oh, you're awake, Angel. William chirped, leaning over the bed. I got you a matching collar. It was pink. It had rhinestones. It had a bell that jingled with the slightest movement. Jingle, jingle. Leo tried to bolt under the bed, but William scooped him up. No hiding. We have a big day. I have a double lecture in architecture, and I can't leave a precious kitten alone in this big apartment. You might get lonely. I want to be lonely. I crave isolation. Leo yelled, but William was already stuffing him into a high-tech, bubble backpack, one of those bags with a clear plastic dome so the cat can see out. As William strolled onto the university campus, Leo felt like a goldfish in a bowl. He was pressed against the mesh, his tiny pink tutu squished against the plastic. Jingle, jingle. Oh my God, William. Is that a kitten? A group of girls squealed, surrounding them near the fountain. Yes, William said, beaming with pride. This is Angel. I found her on the street. She's a bit grumpy, but she loves her dress. She's so ugly cute, one girl remarked, tapping on the plastic dome right in front of Leo's nose. Leo bared his tiny teeth. Ugly. I'll show you ugly when I revert to human form and fail you in the peer reviews. He swiped at the plastic, his dull claws making a pathetic squeak sound. See, she's waving. William laughed. She's so social. As they approached the main hall, Leo saw something that made his whiskers twitch in horror. His brother, Kevin, was standing by the large corkboard, looking stressed and disheveled. Kevin was stapling papers to the board. William walked right up to him. Hey, Kevin, everything okay? You look like you haven't slept. Kevin sighed, wiping sweat from history forehead. It's Leo. He didn't come home last 5 days. He hasn't answered his phone. I'm putting up missing person posters. Leo pressed his face against the bubble. Kevin, I'm right here. Look at the backpack. Look at the disgraceful tutu. William looked at the poster. It was a photo of Leo from last New Year's, looking particularly sour and holding a soda. Oh, man, I'm sorry. Leo and I don't exactly get along, but I hope he's okay. He's probably just blowing off steam. I don't know, Kevin said, his eyes drifting to the backpack. Wait, is that a cat in a dress? This is Angel, William said, turning around so Kevin could get a better look. Leo started screaming. Meow, meow meow meow. Kevin, it's me. Look at my eyes. Do these look like the eyes of a stranger? Kevin leaned in close. Leo felt a spark of hope. Come on, Kevin. Use that sibling intuition. Kevin squinted. Huh, that cat has the exact same, I hate the world expression as my brother. It's uncanny. Right. William chuckled. That's why I liked her. Anyway, Kevin sighed, turning back to his posters. If you see him, let me know. He's an idiot, but he's my only brother. Leo slumped to the bottom of the backpack. You're the idiot, Kevin. I'm 6 inches away from you. The architecture lecture was 2 hours of pure torture. William sat in the front row, of course, and placed the backpack on the desk next to him. The professor was droning on about structural integrity, but Leo had other plans. He noticed that William's expensive laptop was open, and his fingers were flying across the keyboard, taking meticulous notes. If I can't tell them who I am, I'll at least ruin William's GPA, Leo thought. He waited for William to turn his head to look at the projector. With the precision of a ninja, Leo reached his paw through the small ventilation hole in the side of the bag. He couldn't reach the keyboard, but he could reach the power cord. Tug, tug, slam. He didn't just pull the cord, he managed to hook his claw into the mesh and pull the entire backpack tilted, causing a water bottle to tip over. Angel. No. William yelled, catching the bottle just before it soaked his laptop. The professor stopped talking. Mr. Vanderbilt. Is there an issue? No, sir. Just, my angel is a bit restless, William said, his face turning bright red. Leo let out a loud, long, meow. That echoed through the silent hall. The entire class burst into laughter. Is that a cat in a tutu? Someone shouted from the back. It's a fashion statement. William defended, frantically trying to calm Leo down by sticking a finger through the hole to pet him. Leo bit the finger. Hard. Ow. You little. William caught himself, remembering he was in public. He whispered into the bag, Angel, if you don't behave, no treats for a week. And I'll buy you the yellow sunflower costume next. Leo froze. A yellow sunflower. With petals around his face. He sat back down and went silent. The threat was real. William Vanderbilt was a monster, and Leo was his captive princess. Life is, Angel, was reaching an all-time low. Leo had survived the pink tutu, he had survived the bubble backpack, and he had even survived the indignity of being called a delicate lady by the campus swim team. But on the 7th day of his feline sentence, something shifted. It started with a weird itch. Then a restless heat that felt like he'd swallowed a radiator. Moreau. Moreau wow wow. Leo suddenly found himself face down on the rug, his hindquarters sticking up in the air involuntarily. Angel, are you okay? William asked, looking up from his textbook. Leo tried to stand up straight like a dignified college student, but his body had other plans. His back arched, his tail flicked to the side, and a sound came out of his throat that sounded like a broken bagpipe. MRRRRRRRRR yeah. Oh no, William said, his eyes widening as he dropped his pen. Are you in heat? Already. The vet said you were too young. Leo's internal monologue was a scream of pure horror. In heat. William, I am a 20-year-old man. I don't have heats, I have exams. My body is malfunctioning. It's the cat DNA, it's taking over. Stop looking at me. William paced the room, looking distressed. I can't take you to the vet until tomorrow morning, and you sounds like you're in pain, my poor girl. You need companionship. A distraction. William grabbed his phone. Leo, still stuck in a very embarrassing yoga pose from hell, watched with dinner plate eyes as William dialed a number. Hey, Marcus. Yeah, it's William. Listen, is your cat Sir Pounce a Lot still available? Yeah, my new kitten, Angel, is having a bit of a hormonal crisis. I think she needs a friend to calm her down. Can you bring him over? Great. See you in 10. Leo's fur stood on end. Sir Pounce a Lot. William, if you bring a male cat into this house to distract me, I will burn this apartment to the ground. I am a heterosexual human male. I don't want a boyfriend, especially one that licks his own butt. 10 minutes later, Marcus, a guy from the rugby team, arrived carrying a carrier that looked like it contained a small tiger. Out stepped Sir Pounce a Lot, a massive, muscular gray tabby with a torn ear and a very confident swagger. He's a champion, Marcus bragged. He'll keep her busy. William set Sir Pounce a Lot down on the rug. The big cat immediately spotted Leo, who was currently wearing a frilly yellow sunflower collar William had put on him to cheer him up. Sir Pounce a Lot let out a low, rumbling purr and started strutting toward Leo. Stay back, you beast. Leo hissed, but because of the heat, it came out as a flirty chirrup. No, that was a hiss. I am hissing at you. Don't come closer. Sir Pounce-A-Lot didn't care. He walked up and gave Leo's ear a giant, sandpaper tongue lick. Ah, look, William cooed, leaning over with his camera. They're bonding. Angel found a boyfriend. Leo had reached his limit. The combination of the heat, the sunflower collar, and the unwanted advances of a cat named after a knight was too much. As Sir Pounce-A-Lot tried to nuzzle Leo's neck, Leo's human brain snapped back into control. He didn't care if he was a 5-pound kitten, he was a 5-pound kitten with the rage of 1,000 suns. You want a piece of me, Sir Pounce? Leo didn't mate. He launched. He turned into a blurring orange cyclone of claws and fury. He smacked the gray tabby across the nose with a rapid-fire bap 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 bap. Me OWWW. Sir Pounce-A-Lot cried, his ego bruised as he scrambled backward, slipping on the hardwood floor. Angel. No. Be nice to the gentleman. William shouted, trying to intervene. Leo turned his gaze toward William. Gentleman. You brought a male cat to date me, William. Me. Leo. Your rival. Leo jumped onto the coffee table, scattering William's neatly organized notes. He began to do a literal war dance on the papers. He grabbed William's favorite fountain pen in his mouth and, crunch, snapped the plastic casing. My pen. William gasped. Leo then turned to Sir Pounce-A-Lot, who was hiding behind the curtains. Leo let out a scream so loud and uncatlike that Marcus actually jumped. Whoa, dude, Marcus said, picking up his cat's carrier. I think your angel is actually a demon. Sir Pounce is terrified. I'm leaving. Once the suitor was gone, Leo sat on top of the bookshelf, panting, his sunflower collar lopsided. The heat was still there, but the adrenaline had suppressed it for a moment. William stood in the middle of the ruined living room, looking at his chewed pen and shredded notes. He sighed and looked up at Leo. You're not a very good girl, are you? William said softly. Leo glared. I'm a great guy, you just have a princess complex. Maybe you're just picky, William mused, rubbing his chin. Maybe you don't like tough guys. You want someone sensitive. Someone like, well, someone like me. William reached up and gently lifted Leo down from the shelf. He sat on the sofa and cradled the angry orange kitten in his lap. It's okay, Angel. No more boyfriends. Just us. I'll stay up with you all night so you don't feel lonely. He started humming a soft tune, petting Leo from head to tail. The heat was still making Leo's body act crazy, and as much as he wanted to bite William's hand, the warmth was actually helping the cramps. I hate you so much, Leo thought, his eyes slowly closing as he leaned into William's palm. But if you ever tell anyone I purred while wearing a sunflower, I will end you. William kissed the top of Leo's head. Go to sleep, my little princess. Tomorrow, we go to the vet to get you fixed, so you don't have to go through this again. Leo's eyes snapped open. Fixed. As in, the snip snip. William, no, I need those. The sun rose on a day that Leo was certain would be his last. William had spent the entire morning packing a pink carrier with a fluffy blanket and a bag of calming lavender treats. Don't be scared, Angel, William cooed, bopping Leo on the nose. The vet is just going to give you a little checkup and schedule your surgery. You'll be much calmer once you're fixed. Leo's paws were scrambled against the mesh of the carrier. Calmer. I'll be a soprano, William. You can't do this to me. I have plans for a family one day. Human ones. The waiting room at Paws and Whiskers Clinic was filled with barking dogs and judging Persians. William sat there, looking like the perfect, concerned, cat dad, petting the carrier door. William Vanderbilt. The nurse called. They entered the exam room. A no-nonsense vet named Drive. Aris picked Leo up by the scruff. Leo dangled there, his little sunflower collar still drooping from his neck. So, William started, my little girl, Angel, has been having some hormonal issues. Screaming, arching her back, the whole heat cycle. I want to get her spayed as soon as possible. Doctor. Aris paused. He looked at Leo. Then he looked at Leo's back end. Then he looked at William with an expression that said, are you actually a university student? Mr. Vanderbilt, the doctor said slowly. This cat is not in heat. He isn't. William blinked. But she was screaming. She was acting so feminine. That's because she is a he drive. Aris deadpanned. And he wasn't in heat. He was likely just having a very aggressive temper tantrum or reacting to that ridiculous sunflower collar. This is a male orange tabby. A very angry, very intact male. The silence in the room was deafening. Leo felt a surge of pride. Vindication. Hear that, William? I'm a boy. A manly orange boy. William's face turned a shade of red that matched Leo's fur. A boy. But, the pink dresses. The princess bed. The name Angel. That's entirely on you, sir, the vet sighed. William looked down at Leo. Leo looked back with the smuggest expression a feline face could muster. I am so stupid, William whispered, covering his face with his hands. I've been calling him a pretty princess for a week. I bought him a tutu with glitter on it. I suggest a name change, the vet added, writing on a clipboard. And maybe stop dressing him like a bridesmaid. As soon as they got back to the apartment, William was too dazed to realize he hadn't fully latched the carrier. He set it on the floor and slumped onto the sofa, staring at the ceiling in pure embarrassment. I'm a failure as a cat owner, William groaned. I'm going to have to change your name too. I don't know. Archie. Thor. Leo didn't wait for a name change. He used his head to shove the carrier door open. Cling. He saw his chance. The balcony door was cracked open to let in the breeze. Leo bolted. He was a streak of orange lightning, leaping over the coffee table, sliding under William's legs, and squeezing through the gap in the door. Angel. Wait. Thor. Come back. William yelled, scrambling to his feet. Leo didn't look back. He leapt from the balcony to a nearby tree branch, nearly falling on his face, and slid down the trunk. He knew these streets now. He knew the shortcut to his own apartment. 20 minutes later, a breathless, dusty orange kitten arrived at the doorstep of Leo's home. He sat there, meowing at the top of his lungs. Kevin, open up. I'm back. I escaped the tutu man. The door opened. Kevin stood there, looking even more miserable than before. He was holding a stack of "Leo is missing" flyers. You again. Kevin groaned. Look, kid, I don't have food for you. I'm busy looking for my brother. Leo ran inside between Kevin's legs. He jumped onto the dining table. He grabbed a pen in his mouth and tried to write on one of the flyers. He managed to scribble a messy L before Kevin grabbed him. Hey, don't ruin those. Those are expensive to print. Kevin yelled. Leo looked Kevin dead in the eye. He pointed a paw at himself, then at the photo of Leo on the flyer. It's me. Look at the grumpy eyebrows. Look at the disdain. Get out of here, you weird furball. Kevin sighed, tucking the cat under his arm. I told you, I'm allergic. And you smell like lavender and embarrassment. Kevin opened the door and literally tossed Leo onto the welcome mat. Go find a nice old lady to live with. I've got enough problems. Slam. Leo sat on the mat, his heart breaking. My own blood. My own brother. I'm going to haunt his Netflix account when I turn back. Leo was sitting on the curb, feeling defeated, when a shadow loomed over him. He looked up. There stood William. He was panting, his hair messy, holding the pink carrier in one hand and a bag of premium treats in the other. He looked genuinely terrified. Oh, thank God, William exhaled, dropping to his knees on the sidewalk. I thought I lost you forever. Leo let out a defeated mew. William reached out, but he didn't grab Leo roughly. He just held his hand out. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry about the dresses. And the name Angel. And the vet. William picked Leo up and tucked him against his chest. I guess I was just so excited to have someone to take care of. I've been pretty lonely since my roommate moved out, and that guy Leo at school is such a jerk, I needed a friend. Leo froze. William was lonely. Let's go home, Leo, William whispered. Leo's ears shot up. Did he just say my name? No, he's probably just naming me after his enemy, to be ironic. Yeah, William laughed softly as he walked back toward his apartment. I'll name you Leo. You both have the same mean glare and you both hate everything I do. It's perfect. Leo sighed, resting his head on William's shoulder. Fine, I'll go back, but if I see one more piece of pink lace, I'm pooping in your shoes. Life back at William's apartment had changed. The pink dresses were buried at the bottom of a trash can. Leo had personally supervised the disposal and William had officially rebranded him. Okay, Leo the cat, William said, pouring a bowl of specialized, senior vitality, salmon flakes. Even though Leo was technically a kitten, William insisted he had the soul of a grumpy old man. Since you're named after my rival, you have to at least pretend to be smart. I have a study date tonight. Leo's ears twitched. A study date? With who? You barely have friends, you overachieving mannequin. Her name is Chloe, William continued, checking himself in the mirror for the 10th time. She's the head of the cheer squad. She's smart, she's beautiful, and she actually likes me. Unlike the human Leo, who spends every lecture trying to burn me with his gaze. Leo let out a long, disgusted, meow, and proceeded to sharpen his claws on William's favorite rug. When the doorbell rang, William practically flew to the door. In walked Chloe, blonde, bubbly, and wearing a perfume that made Leo's sensitive cat nose want to explode. Oh my gosh, William. Your place is so cute. She squealed. Then she spotted the orange ball of fur on the sofa. And is this the little angel you told me about? Actually, William laughed, rubbing the back of his neck. The vet told me he's a boy. So I renamed him Leo. After that guy in my class one told you about. Chloe giggled, sitting down on the sofa right where Leo was napping. Leo. That's hilarious. Is he just as mean as the real one? Leo stood up, arched his back, and hissed. I'm right here, you hair-sprayed intruder. And I'm not mean, I'm misunderstood. He's just protective, William said, sitting down uncomfortably close to Chloe. The two of them opened their textbooks. Leo sat on the back of the sofa, watching them like a tiny, furry gargoyle. William was explaining a complex architectural floor plan. So, if we place the load-bearing wall here. Chloe leaned in, her shoulder touching William's. Wow, William, you're so smart. I don't know how you do it. Leo couldn't take it. The sight of William, his William, wait, when did he become his William? Flirting with this girl was nauseating. Load-bearing wall. I'll show you a load-bearing catastrophe, Leo thought. He leapt from the sofa onto the dining table, landing squarely on Chloe's open textbook. He didn't just sit, he began to groom his hind legs with exaggerated focus, right on top of her notes. Oh, Leo, honey, I'm trying to read that, Chloe said, trying to push him gently. Leo went limp. He became a 10-pound sack of orange potatoes. Every time she tried to move him, he let out a low, pathetic moan like he was being tortured. He's just tired, Chloe, William said, reaching out to pet Leo's head. He likes the texture of the paper. Leo purred loudly, leaning his head into William's hand while simultaneously giving Chloe a look of pure, unadulterated malice. Chloe wasn't giving up. She brought out a thermos of herbal tea and 2 mugs. I thought we could have a break. You work so hard, William. She poured the tea. The steam rose, smelling like chamomile and Leo's impending defeat. As William reached for his mug, Chloe put her hand over his. You know, William, I've always thought you were the most interesting guy in our year. Even if you were a bit obsessed with that cat. William blushed. He's good company. Leo had seen enough. He saw the way Chloe was looking at William, and he felt a spike of jealousy that went straight to his tail. He didn't think, he just acted. He, accidentally, chased an imaginary fly across the table. Skid. Slide. Bam. His back paw slipped, sending Chloe's full mug of tea directly into her lap. Ah, it's hot. Oh my god. Chloe jumped up, her white skirt now stained a dull brown. Chloe, I'm so sorry. William grabbed a stack of napkins, frantically trying to help. Leo sat in the corner, licking a paw with extreme nonchalance. Oops, my bad. Must be my clumsy kitten nature. Chloe was in the bathroom trying to clean her skirt, and William was pacing the living room. Leo, what is wrong with you today? You're usually so well behaved. Leo just stared at him. She's boring, William. She doesn't even know what a load-bearing wall is. She just wants your notes. When Chloe came out of the bathroom, she looked furious. You know what, William? I think your cat is possessed. He's been glaring at me the whole time. It's creepy. He's just expressive. William tried to defend. He's a nightmare. Chloe snapped, grabbing her bag. Call me when you get a goldfish. Or a dog. Or literally anything that doesn't look like it wants to murder me. She slammed the door. The apartment was silent. William looked at the closed door, then at the puddle of tea on the floor, and finally at the orange kitten sitting on the table. You did that on purpose, William said, crossing his arms. Leo gave a short, sharp, meow. You're jealous. William gasped, a slow smirk spreading across his face. You didn't want her here. You wanted all the attention for yourself, didn't you, Leo? Leo turned his back on him, his tail twitching. Don't get ahead of yourself, Vanderbilt. I just have high standards for your houseguests. William walked over and picked Leo up, holding him eye to eye. You know, you really are like the human Leo. He's always trying to ruin my day, too. But at least when you do it, you're cute. William sat on the sofa and tucked Leo into the crook of his arm. Fine. No more study dates. Just you and me. But you're helping me clean up this tea. Leo let out a contented purr, kneading his paws into William's sweater. He had won. The intruder was gone, the territory was secure, and he had William all to himself. But then, William whispered, tomorrow, I'm bringing home the lion mane costume. Since you're such a fierce protector, you should look the part. Leo's eyes widened. I spoke too soon. I definitely spoke too soon. For exactly 30 days, Leo had lived a life of luxury and utter humiliation. He had been bathed in lavender, dressed as a sunflower, a princess, and a lion, and had successfully sabotaged every social interaction William tried to have. It was a cold, rainy night, the 1-month anniversary of the alleyway incident. William was lying in bed, reading a thick book on Gothic architecture. Leo, now a plump and shiny furred orange tabby, was sprawled across William's chest, purring like a small motorboat. You know, Leo, William whispered, petting the space between Leo's ears. I actually like you better than the human version of you. You don't yell at me about my perfect hair, or try to one-up my grades. You just sleep. Leo opened one green eye and let out a sleepy mew. Enjoy it while it lasts, Vanderbilt, Leo thought. Because if I ever get my hands back, I'm deleting all the photos of me in that tutu. Leo drifted off to sleep, feeling a strange, tingling warmth spreading from his nose to his tail. It wasn't the heat from before, it felt like his skin was stretching, his bones growing, and his fur dissolving into thin air. The morning sun hit the bedroom at 8 a.m. William groaned, reaching out to pet the warm, furry ball that usually slept on his collarbone. But his hand didn't hit fur. It hit skin. Smooth, warm, human skin. And instead of a 5-pound kitten, he felt a heavy weight crushing his lungs. William opened his eyes. He blinked. He blinked again. Lying directly on top of him, head tucked into William's neck and arms wrapped around William's waist, was a full-grown, very naked, very human Leo. Ah! William screamed, his voice hitting a note only dogs could hear. Leo's eyes snapped open. He scrambled to sit up, but because they were tangled in the duvet, he ended up face to face with a hyperventilating William. Morning, Leo croaked, his voice finally deep and human again. Then his eyes widened. He looked at his hands, pale, long-fingered, furless hands. My hands. I have fingers. I have toes. I don't have a tail. Leo. William shrieked, pressing himself against the headboard. Why are you in my bed? Why are you naked? Where is my cat? Where is Angel? Where is Leo the cat? Leo grabbed the duvet to cover himself, looking around the room with a manic grin. There is no Angel, William. There is no Thor. It was me. I kicked that orange cat in the alley and it cursed me. William's jaw hit the floor. You were the cat. Yes, Leo shouted, pointing a finger at William's face. I was the cat you forced into a pink tutu. I was the cat you took to the vet to get fixed. Do you have any idea how traumatic it is to have a doctor look at your parts and call you a delicate lady? William turned a color of red that shouldn't be biologically possible. The memories came rushing back in a horrifying montage. Giving Leo a bubble bath while singing Rubber Ducky. Telling Leo his deepest secrets while crying over a rom-com. The manicure sessions. The spoon feeding. I fed you organic salmon from my own fork, William whispered, his voice trembling with pure humiliation. I called you a pretty princess, and kissed your forehead every night before bed. You did, Leo said, his smirk returning. And you told me I was much cuter than the human Leo. Care to repeat that now, Vanderbilt? William buried his face in his pillows, let out a muffled scream, and started kicking his legs like a toddler. I'm going to move. I'm dropping out of university. I'm changing my name and moving to a mountain in Tibet. Oh, no you don't, Leo laughed, feeling a surge of power he hadn't felt in weeks. I remember everything. I remember when you tried to set me up with Sir Pounce-a-Lot. I remember the sunflower collar. I remember how you cried when you thought I ran away to Kevin's house. William looked up, one eye visible from behind the pillow. You were the one who tipped the tea on Chloe. Damn right I was, Leo said proudly. She was boring, and her perfume smelled like a chemical plant. William stared at him. The shock was slowly being replaced by the realization of just how intimate they had been for the last month. They had shared every meal, every secret, and every night's sleep. So, William said, his voice cracking. All those times I told you I was lonely and that I actually respected your intelligence, you heard all of that. Leo's smugness faltered. He remembered William's soft whispers in the dark, the way William had protected him from the rain, and the genuine care he had shown. Yeah, Leo said quietly, his face heating up. I heard it all. The two sat in awkward silence for a long moment, the air thick with 30 days of shared secrets. So, William finally said, clearing his throat. Since you're human now, I guess you'll be moving back to your brother's place. Leo looked at the comfortable bed, then at the kitchen where he knew there was still some high-quality coffee and hopefully no more salmon pâté. Kevin kicked me out twice when I was a cat, Leo grumbled. I'm not in a hurry to go back there. Besides, you still owe me for the angel incident. William looked at Leo, the real, grumpy, messy-haired Leo, and felt a strange spark of the same affection he'd felt for the kitten. What do you want? Leo pointed to William's wardrobe. First, give me some clothes. Second, you're buying me the biggest steak in the city. No salmon, no tuna, steak. William sighed, a small, embarrassed smile tugging at his lips. Fine, but Leo, what? If you ever tell anyone about the pink tutu, I will buy a real cat and name it after you just so I can dress it up. Leo laughed, a real, human sound that filled the room. Deal, Vanderbilt, deal. The transition from pet and owner back to rivals was, in a word, impossible. After a month of sharing a pillow and secrets, the cold glares in the architecture studio felt fake. Every time Leo tried to snap at William for being a perfectionist, William would just look at Leo's mouth and remember him licking a bowl of milk, and Leo would turn bright red and look away. It had been 2 weeks since the transformation. Leo was back in his own apartment, but his feet kept leading him back to William's door. Leo was hiding behind a stack of books in the university library, trying to study for finals. Suddenly, a familiar scent of sandalwood filled the air. A shadow fell over his desk. You're holding your pen wrong, William's voice whispered near his ear. Leo jumped, nearly knocking over his coffee. Vanderbilt, don't sneak up on me. And I'm not holding it wrong, I'm holding it comfortably. William sat down across from him, looking at Leo with an unreadable expression. You know, the apartment is too quiet. I keep thinking I hear a bell jingling, but then I remember I threw the collar away. Leo felt a squeeze in his chest. Yeah, well, Kevin's place is too loud. He keeps asking me why I developed a sudden taste for expensive salmon and why I hate the color pink so much. William leaned forward, his eyes locking onto Leo's. I miss Angel, but I think I miss the guy who was trapped inside even more. As they left the library, the sky opened up. It was a torrential downpour, the exact kind of weather that had once left Leo shivering under a car. Leo ducked under the building's awning, his shoulders tensing. He hated the rain. It reminded him of being small, wet, and alone. Suddenly, he felt a warm weight around his shoulders. William had draped his own designer coat over him. You're going to get a cold, William said softly. I'm not a kitten anymore, William. I can handle a little water, Leo grumbled, though he pulled the coat tighter. It smelled exactly like the bed he had slept in for a month. William stepped closer, trapping Leo between the brick wall and his body. The air between them grew heavy. Leo, stop pretending. We can't go back to being enemies. Not after I spent a month telling you I liked you more than anyone else on this campus while you were purring in my lap. Leo looked up, his heart hammering. You were talking to a cat. You didn't know it was me. I think I did, William whispered, his hand reaching out to brush a stray hair from Leo's forehead. There was something about those grumpy green eyes. I've been obsessed with those eyes since freshman year. I just didn't have the courage to tell the human you. Leo's breath hitched. You're an idiot. You know that, right? A total, pampered, perfectionist idiot. And you're a stubborn, prickly, loud-mouthed brat, William countered, a smirk playing on his lips. So, what are we going to do about it? Leo didn't answer with words. He reached up, grabbed the lapels of William's shirt, and pulled him down. The kiss wasn't like a fairy tale, it was desperate, messy, and tasted like rain and long overdue honesty. A month later, William was back at his drafting table, working on a final project. The apartment was warm, the lighting was dim, and music played softly in the background. Leo walked out of the kitchen, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. He was wearing one of William's oversized sweaters, the soft, cashmere one he used to love kneading his paws into. Here, Leo said, setting the coffee down. He didn't move away. Instead, he climbed onto the oversized chair behind William, wrapping his arms around William's neck and resting his chin on his shoulder. William leaned back, closing his eyes and sighing in content. You're doing it again. Doing what? Leo asked, nipping at William's earlobe. The angel thing. You're being clingy. You're basically a human cat, Leo. Leo huffed, but he didn't let go. Shut up. You love it. You're obsessed with me. I am, William admitted, turning his head to catch Leo's lips in a soft kiss. But I have a question. I saw a box in the hallway. Why is there a delivery from the fancy feline? Leo turned bright red. I may have ordered a very specific brand of salmon treats. For research. William burst out laughing, pulling Leo around to sit in his lap. Research? Or do you just miss the princess treatment? Leo wrapped his arms around William's neck, a mischievous glint in his eyes. Maybe a little, but only if the owner is you. And no tutus. Ever. I make no promises about the sunflower hat, William teased. William, I love you too, Leo. Leo grumbled, burying his face in William's neck, but the soft, rhythmic vibration in his chest was unmistakable. He wasn't a cat anymore, but as he sat in the arms of the man he once called his enemy, he had never felt more at home. The curse was broken, but the bond was permanent. And as far as Leo was concerned, being William's angel wasn't such a bad gig after all, as long as it came with steak and kisses instead of milk and bells. The end.
Next. There another story.
The scent of jasmine and expensive cedarwood clung to the hallways of the Northwood estate, a constant reminder of a life Alex didn't belong to. Alex stood in the shadow of the grand staircase, his fingers nervously tugging at the hem of his oversized sweater. He was the second Omega, a title that felt more like a brand of shame than a position of status. He's back, a maid whispered, scurrying past with a tray of vintage wine. The master is back, and he brought gifts for Mr. Julian. Alex's heart gave a painful thud. He crept toward the foyer, watching from behind a marble pillar as the heavy oak doors swung open. Lucas stepped in, looking every bit the dominant alpha he was, broad-shouldered, sharp-jawed, and radiating power. But his cold eyes only softened when they landed on the man waiting for him at the center of the room. Julian. Lucas's first Omega was a vision of porcelain perfection. Dressed in silk that cost more than Alex's entire family home, Julian moved with a lethal elegance. You're late, Julian said, his voice like velvet. He didn't run to Lucas, he waited for the alpha to come to him. The board meeting ran long, Lucas murmured, his voice dropping an octave, a tone Alex had never heard directed at himself. Lucas reached out, tucking a stray lock of silver hair behind Julian's ear. I brought you the emerald pendant you mentioned last month. Only the emerald. Julian teased, leaning into Lucas's touch. Alex stepped out from the shadows, his voice barely a squeak. Welcome home, Lucas. The atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. The warmth evaporated from Lucas's face, replaced by a flick of irritation, as if he'd just stepped on a piece of grit in a polished shoe. You're still up? Lucas asked, his gaze drifting over Alex's plain clothes and messy hair. It's late. I made soup, Alex whispered, his lower lip trembling. Your favorite, the spicy beef broth. My mother used to say. Give it to the staff, Alex, Lucas interrupted, not even looking at him anymore. He turned back to Julian, his hand resting possessively on Julian's waist. Julian and I are dining out. He's had a stressful day at the gallery. But Lucas, Alex took a step forward, desperation clawing at his throat. It's our 6-month anniversary. Since my parents sent me here. I thought maybe. Julian turned his head, a small, pitying smile playing on his lips. Oh, darling, 6 months. I've been with Lucas for 6 years. In this house, we don't really celebrate arrangements. The word poked a hole in Alex's chest. Arrangement. That's all he was. A debt paid by his parents to the powerful Alpha. Later that night, Alex sat alone in the vast, stainless steel kitchen. The soup sat cold and oily on the counter. Still moping, Alex looked up to see Marcus, Lucas's head of security and a longtime friend of the family. Marcus was an alpha, too, but his scent was earthy and grounded. He was the only one who ever looked Alex in the eye. I'm not moping, Alex lied, wiping a tear away with his sleeve. I wish I was like him. If I were elegant, maybe Lucas would look at me. You're 19, Alex, Marcus said, pulling up a chair. You're a kid who was sold to a man who already had his heart filled. It's not about your elegance. It's about Lucas's blindness. He loves Julian because Julian is a masterpiece, Alex whispered. I'm just a sketch. A messy one. A sketch has more soul than a finished painting sometimes, Marcus muttered, reaching out to pat Alex's hand, then hesitating and pulling back. The front door slammed at midnight. Alex had fallen asleep at the kitchen table, his head resting on his arms. He woke up to the sound of laughter, Julian's melodic giggle and Lucas's low chuckle. He hurried to the hallway. Hoping for just a good night. He found them at the base of the stairs. Lucas had Julian pressed against the banister, his face buried in the crook of Julian's neck, inhaling deeply. You smell divine, Lucas groaned. Always. Alex stood frozen. He thought of his own scent, weak, like fading wildflowers. He had spent an hour in the bath trying to make himself smell like something Lucas would want to claim. Lucas. Alex called out softly. Lucas pulled back, his eyes dark with redirected anger. For God's sake, Alex. Do you follow me around the house? Go to your room. I just wanted to say goodnight, Alex choked out. And to ask if you could sign the papers for my sister's tuition. My parents called, they said. Always money, Lucas snapped, his voice cutting like a whip. That's all your family is, isn't it? A drain. Julian, go upstairs. I'll deal with this. Julian gave Alex a look of pure, cold triumph before gliding up the stairs, his silk robe fluttering behind him. Once he was gone, Lucas stepped into Alex's personal space. He didn't smell like comfort, he smelled like a storm. I bought you. I pay your family's debts. I provide you with a roof. Stop demanding my time, Alex. You are the second Omega for a reason. Learn your place. Alex felt his heart shatter. The pieces felt sharp, drawing blood in his chest. My place. My place is being a ghost in your house. Exactly, Lucas said, turning his back. Stop trying to be Julian. You'll never even be his shadow. As Lucas walked away, Alex sank to his knees on the cold marble floor. He didn't cry out loud. He just squeezed his eyes shut, wishing he could disappear into the stone, wishing he had never been born an Omega, and wishing, most of all, that he didn't love the man who treated him like a mistake. The days that followed the anniversary were not filled with Alex's withdrawal, but with a desperate, frantic kind of hope. It was the kind of hope that hurts to watch, the kind that makes a person strip away their dignity just to catch a glimpse of warmth in a cold man's eyes. Alex had spent his meager allowance, the tiny stipend Lucas's accountant sent him, on a rare bouquet of blue delphiniums. He had overheard Lucas telling a business partner that he admired the color of the ocean. Alex spent 3 hours arranging them in a crystal vase, his fingers pricked by thorns and sticky with sap. He placed them on Lucas's mahogany desk in the private study, a room he was technically forbidden to enter. When the heavy doors creaked open later that evening, Alex was hiding in the nook of the library, his heart hammering against his ribs. Lucas entered, followed by Julian. The elegant Omega was draped in a cashmere throw, looking like a king surveying his domain. Lucas stopped dead when he saw the flowers. Who put these here? Lucas's voice was a low growl. Alex stepped out, his voice trembling. I did, Lucas. I thought, you said you liked the color of the sea. I wanted to bring the sea to you. Lucas didn't look at the flowers. He looked at Alex as if he were a stain on a white rug. I like the sea, Alex. I don't like clutter. And I certainly don't like people touching my desk. Julian let out a soft, tittering laugh, leaning his head on Lucas's shoulder. Oh, Lucas, don't be so hard on the boy. He probably thinks this is what romance looks like in the slums. It's quaint. It's an intrusion, Lucas snapped. He picked up the vase, the expensive crystal vase Alex had spent his last cent on, and handed it to a passing footman. Throw these out. The scent is giving me a headache. Alex felt the air leave his lungs. But, they took me weeks to afford. Then you should have saved your money for a tutor to teach you boundaries, Lucas said, turning his back to pull out a chair for Julian. Alex fled to the kitchen, his breath coming in jagged, broken sobs. He slumped against the cold industrial fridge, sliding down until his knees hit the linoleum. Alex. A warm hand settled on his shoulder. It was Marcus. The alpha's scent of rain and earth wrapped around Alex like a tattered blanket. He threw them away. Marcus, Alex choked out, his face buried in his hands. He didn't even smell them. He said I was clutter. Marcus knelt in front of him, his expression twisted with a helpless kind of fury. Why do you do this to yourself, kid? You're pouring water into a cracked cup. It's never going to stay full. If I just find the right thing, if I become the person he wants. He doesn't want to see you, Alex. Marcus's voice rose, then immediately softened. Not because you aren't worth seeing. But because he's decided Julian is his world. You're just a footnote to him. Please, for your own sake, stop trying to be the main character in his story. I have to try, Alex whispered, his eyes red-rimmed and hollow. If I give up, then I'm just a slave. If I keep trying, maybe I'm still a person. The breaking point came a week later at the Northwood Charity Gala. It was a massive event held at the estate. Hundreds of high society alphas and omegas moved through the ballroom like shimmering predatory fish. Alex had spent hours getting ready. He had tailored his one good suit himself, sewing the seams tighter to mimic the high-fashion silhouette Julian wore so effortlessly. He even used a bit of Julian's expensive perfume, just a drop he'd scavenged from a nearly empty bottle in the trash. He walked into the ballroom, feeling vulnerable and exposed. He found Lucas standing in a circle of powerful investors. Lucas, Alex whispered, approaching the group. The conversation died. A dozen pairs of eyes landed on Alex. He looked like a child playing dress-up in a room full of gods. Who is this? A woman asked, raising a lorgnette. Another ward, Lucas. Julian, standing at Lucas's side in a suit of shimmering silver silk, smirked. This is Alex. Lucas's supplementary omega. His parents were in a bit of a financial bind, you see. Lucas is very charitable. The room erupted in hushed, cruel titters. Supplementary. Charity case. Alex's face burned. Lucas, I wanted to ask if I could have one dance. Just one. To show everyone that I belong here too. Lucas looked at Alex's hand, which was reaching out, trembling. He looked at the suit that was slightly too short at the wrists. He looked at the desperate, pleading love in Alex's eyes, and he felt nothing but embarrassment. You don't belong here, Alex, Lucas said, his voice loud enough for the surrounding guests to hear. You smell like a thief wearing someone else's scent. You look like a beggar in a suit that doesn't fit. You are embarrassing me. You are embarrassing Julian. Lucas, please, Alex whispered, a single tear escaping. I just want you to see me. I see you, Lucas hissed, leaning in close so only Alex could hear the venom. I see a pathetic, needy boy who was sold to me like a piece of livestock. I didn't ask for a second omega. I was forced to take you to settle a debt. Do you understand? You are a debt, not a partner, not a lover, a debt. He straightened up and signaled to Marcus. Marcus, take him to his room. Lock the door if you have to. I don't want to see his face for the rest of the night. Marcus walked Alex through the halls, his hand firm on Alex's arm, but his touch was shaking. I'm sorry, Alex, Marcus whispered as they reached Alex's small, plain bedroom at the end of the servants' wing. I'm so sorry. Alex didn't say anything. He walked to the center of the room and stood there. He didn't even take off the jacket Lucas had mocked. He called me a debt, Alex said, his voice eerily calm. He said I was a thief. He's a fool, Marcus snapped. He's blinded by Julian's shine, he can't see the light you have. I don't have light anymore, Marcus, Alex turned to him, and for the first time, his eyes weren't filled with tears. They were just empty. He put it out. He finally put it out. Marcus wanted to pull him into an embrace, to scent him, to protect him, but he was just the head of security. He was just another employee. He watched as Alex sat on the edge of his narrow bed, staring at the wall. Across the house, the music of the gala played on. Alex could hear Julian's laughter echoing through the vents, bright and sharp, like glass breaking over his head. The silence in the Northwood estate was deafening. For weeks, the hallways had been filled with the sound of Alex's hurried footsteps, his soft pleas, and the scent of his desperate, sweet anxiety. Now, there was nothing. Alex had become a ghost. He stopped appearing at the dinner table. He stopped waiting by the door. He stopped wearing the clothes he thought Lucas would like. He retreated to the small room in the servants' wing, fading into the shadows of the house he was never meant to call home. Lucas sat at the head of the long dining table, the silver cutlery clinking against fine china. Julian sat to his right, picking at a salad with effortless grace. "It's surprisingly quiet lately," Julian remarked, a small, satisfied smirk playing on his lips. "The little stray hasn't tripped over his own feet in the foyer once this week. Did he finally realize he's invisible?" Lucas paused, his fork hovering. He looked at the empty chair at the far end of the table, the chair Alex used to sit in, eyes wide and hopeful, waiting for a scrap of conversation. "He's probably just sulking," Lucas said, his voice unusually gruff. "Marcus, where is he?" Marcus stood at attention near the door, his face a mask of professional indifference. "The second Omega is in the gardens, sir. He requested to take his meals in his room from now on." "Requested?" Lucas narrowed his eyes. "Since when does he make requests?" "Since he stopped trying to be a burden to you, sir," Marcus replied, his voice laced with a hidden edge that made Lucas's alpha instincts prickle. In the glass-walled greenhouse at the edge of the estate, Alex was kneeling in the dirt. He wasn't wearing silk or tailored suits anymore. He wore an old, frayed hoodie and jeans with holes in the knees. He was repotting succulents, his hands stained with earth. "You're late today," Alex said without looking up. Marcus stepped inside, carrying a small paper bag. "The kitchen made lemon tarts. I swiped 2 before Julian's personal chef saw me." Alex looked up, and for the first time in months, a genuine, albeit small, smile touched his lips. It wasn't the frantic smile he gave Lucas, it was soft and tired. "You're going to get fired for me one of these days, Marcus." "Let them try," Marcus grumbled, sitting on a wooden crate next to Alex. He watched as Alex worked. "You look better. Still too thin, but better." "I stopped trying to breathe underwater," Alex whispered, tucking a stray hair behind his ear. "It turns out, if you stop caring if Lucas looks at you, the air is actually quite easy to find." "I hate that he did this to you," Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave. His scent, heavy with rain and oak, began to leak out, thick and protective. "I hate that he made you feel like you had to disappear to survive." Alex paused, his hand hovering over the soil. He looked at Marcus, really looked at him. He saw the way the alpha's jaw clenched with suppressed rage on his behalf. He saw the kindness in eyes that were supposed to be cold and professional. "Why are you so good to me?" Alex asked, his voice barely a breath. "I'm just a debt, remember?" "You're not a debt to me," Marcus said. He reached out, his large, calloused hand hovering near Alex's cheek before he caught himself and pulled back. "To me, you're the only thing in this house that's real." A few nights later, Alex was walking back from the library with a stack of books, trying to reach the servants' stairs without being seen. "Alex." The voice was cold, commanding, and dangerously close. Alex froze. Lucas was standing in the middle of the hallway, a glass of scotch in his hand. He looked disheveled, his tie loosened. "Lucas," Alex said, his voice flat. He didn't bow. He didn't smile. He didn't even look up. "You haven't been in the main wing for 10 days, Lucas said, stepping into Alex's path. "Why?" "I'm staying out of the way, just as you asked," Alex replied. "I'm being the ghost you wanted me to be." Lucas felt a strange, uncomfortable tightness in his chest. He was used to Alex's adoration. It was an annoyance, yes, but it was a constant. The absence of it felt like a cold draft in a warm room. "Don't be dramatic," Lucas snapped, though there was no heat in it. He reached out to grab Alex's chin, to force him to look up, but Alex flinched. He actually flinched away from Lucas's touch. Don't, Alex whispered, his eyes finally meeting Lucas's. There was no love there anymore, only a deep, aching hollow. You told me I smelled like a thief when I wore Julian's scent. I don't want to stain your hands with my beggar skin. Good night, Master Lucas. He walked around the Alpha, leaving Lucas standing alone in the dark hallway, his hand still hanging in the empty air. Marcus was waiting in the shadows of the wing, having seen the entire interaction. As Alex hurried past, Marcus caught him, pulling him into the safety of a darkened alcove. Are you okay? Marcus whispered, his heart thudding against his ribs. Alex didn't answer. He just leaned his forehead against Marcus's chest and let out a long, shuddering breath. I want to leave, Marcus. I don't care about the debt. I don't care about my parents' money. I just want to go somewhere where I'm not a mistake. Marcus's arms instinctively wrapped around him, pulling the Omega close. The height difference was vast, but Alex fit perfectly against him. Marcus buried his face in Alex's hair, inhaling the scent of dirt and wildflowers, the real Alex. If I could take you away, I would, Marcus groaned, his voice thick with emotion. God, Alex, if I weren't his man, if I didn't have nothing to my name. I would take you so far from here he'd never find you. Alex pulled back slightly, looking up at Marcus with tear-filled eyes. Marcus. The air between them changed. It became heavy, charged with a desperate, forbidden longing. Marcus looked at Alex's lips, then at his eyes. For a moment, the world of alphas, omegas, debts, and masters disappeared. But then, the sound of Julian's laughter echoed from the floor above. Marcus stiffened, his hands dropping from Alex's waist as if he'd been burned. He stepped back, his face hardening into that professional mask again. I can't, Marcus whispered, his voice breaking. I'm a servant, Alex. And you belong to him on paper. If I touch you, if I take you, he'll destroy us both. Not because he loves you, but because he owns you. I don't belong to anyone, Alex cried softly, the rejection from the one person who cared about him hurting worse than any of Lucas's insults. You deserve a king, Marcus said, his eyes full of pain. Not a man who has to hide you in the shadows of someone else's house. I'm sorry, Alex. I can't be what you need. Marcus turned and walked away, leaving Alex alone in the dark, caught between a man who didn't want him and a man who was too afraid to love him. The tension in the Northwood estate finally snapped like a violin string stretched too tight. It happened in the small, dim corridor leading to the gardens, the only place Alex felt he could breathe. Marcus had found Alex trembling after another nightmare about his family's debts. Without thinking of the consequences, Marcus had pulled the smaller man into a crushing, protective embrace. Alex's face was buried in Marcus's neck, his fingers clutching the fabric of the security uniform as if it were a life raft. I can't do this anymore, Marcus, Alex sobbed, his sense spiking with pure, unfiltered grief. I'm so tired of being nothing. You're everything to me, Marcus whispered, his resolve crumbling. He leaned down, his forehead resting against Alex's. I don't care about the rules. I don't care about him. If you'll have a man with nothing but a heart to give, then I'm yours. How touching, a sharp, melodic voice sliced through the air. They bolted apart. Julian was standing at the end of the hall, draped in a silk robe, his eyes gleaming with malicious delight. He held a smartphone, the screen glowing as he finished a recording. The help and the charity case, Julian sneered, his lips curling. Lucas is going to find this fascinating. Julian, wait, Alex started, his face paling. Don't bother, darling, Julian hissed, turning on his heel. I've waited months for a reason to sweep the trash out of this house. Lucas, come see what your loyal guard has been doing with your property. Minutes later, they were in the grand study. The air was thick with the suffocating, dominant scent of an angry alpha. Lucas stood behind his desk, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the wood. The video played on his laptop, Marcus holding Alex, the intimacy of the moment undeniable. Lucas looked up, and for the first time, his eyes weren't cold, they were burning. But it wasn't just anger, it was a confused, sharp pang of possessiveness he didn't know how to name. Is this true? Lucas's voice was a low, dangerous vibration. Marcus, my most trusted man. Marcus stood tall, shielding Alex with his body. It's true, sir. I love him. I love him in all the ways you refused to. Lucas felt a physical blow to his chest. I love him. Those were words he had never said to Alex. He had never even thought them. But seeing Alex cowering behind Marcus, looking at the guard with a trust he had never shown Lucas, made something inside the alpha roar. You're fired, Lucas spat, the words jagged. Get out of my house. Now, before I have you blacklisted from every firm in the country. No, Alex screamed, stepping out from behind Marcus. The room went silent. Julian, who had been lounging in an armchair enjoying the show, sat up. Lucas stared at Alex in shock. The ghost had finally found his voice. You can't fire him, Alex said, his voice shaking but loud. He's the only person in this house who treated me like a human being. You ignored me, you mocked me, you let Julian treat me like dirt, but Marcus stayed. He listened. He is my employee, and you are mine. Lucas roared, slamming his hand on the desk. You are my omega, Alex. By law and by debt. I am not a thing. Alex shouted back, tears streaming down his face. You don't get to claim me only when someone else wants me. You threw me away, Lucas. You told me I was a debt and clutter. Why do you care now? Lucas flinched. The memory of his own words tasted like ash. He looked at Alex, really looked at him, and saw the fierce, desperate love Alex was directing at Marcus. It hurt. It felt like his heart was being squeezed by a cold hand. I am the master of this house, Lucas said, trying to regain his mask of coldness. Marcus, leave. Now. If he goes, I go, Alex said firmly. He took Marcus's hand, locking their fingers together. I'll go back to the slums. I'll work in the factories. I'll starve. But I won't stay here without the only person who loves me. Julian let out a sharp, forced laugh. Oh, let them go, Lucas. Let the two losers rot together. We don't need the drama. But Lucas wasn't looking at Julian. He was looking at the way Alex's small hand was anchored to Marcus's. He felt a sickening sense of loss. He realized that for months, he had been the sun, and Alex had been a flower turning toward him, begging for a drop of light. And instead of shining, Lucas had frozen him out. Now, the flower had found a different light. You would choose him, Lucas whispered, his voice cracking. A man with nothing. Over everything I've given you. You gave me a roof, Lucas, Alex said, his voice dropping to a painful, quiet whisper. Marcus gave me a reason to wake up. You gave me silk, but he gave me warmth. I'd choose a cardboard box with him over this palace with you every single day. Lucas felt a tear prick his eye, but he blinked it away, his pride still standing like a wall. Fine. Go. Both of you. Pack your things. You have 1 hour. We don't need an hour, Marcus said, his grip on Alex tightening. We have everything we need right here. As they turned to leave, Lucas watched them walk out the door. He expected to feel relief. He expected to feel like the clutter was finally gone. Instead, he felt like the walls of his grand house were closing in. He looked at Julian, who was smiling at his phone, and suddenly, the porcelain perfection felt cold. The elegance felt empty. Lucas sank into his chair, his head in his hands. He had won the argument, he had kept his pride, and he had cleared his house. So why did it feel like he was the one who had been cast out into the cold? The transition from the gold-leafed ceilings of the Northwood estate to a cramped, one-bedroom apartment in the city's industrial district was jarring. The air here didn't smell like jasmine, it smelled of damp concrete, exhaust, and cheap laundry detergent. Yet, for the first time in his life, Alex felt he could breathe. Alex sat at a small, wobbly wooden table, a stack of textbooks and a calculator in front of him. He was working 2 jobs, one at a local library and another cleaning a community center, while studying for his GED. The door creaked open, and Marcus walked in, his shoulders slumped with exhaustion. He had traded his tailored security uniform for a heavy, grease-stained jacket from the warehouse where he now worked double shifts. Hey, Marcus whispered, his face instantly brightening when he saw Alex. He dropped a small paper bag on the table. I caught the bakery closing. They were going to toss the day-old bread, but I talked them into a discount. Alex stood up and wrapped his arms around Marcus's waist. You're working too hard. You don't have to carry it all, Marcus. I'm making progress. I saved another $100 today toward the debt. Marcus pulled back, his thumb brushing Alex's cheek. That debt isn't yours to pay, Alex. Lucas has billions. He doesn't need your sense. It's not about what he needs, Alex said, his eyes flashing with a new, fierce independence. It's about my freedom. I won't let him own a single second of my past anymore. When that debt is zero, I am finally a person who belongs to nobody but himself. Marcus smiled, his heart swelling. You're incredible. You know that. Across the city, Lucas sat in his darkened study. The house was unnervingly quiet. Julian was in the other room, complaining loudly about a smudge on his new designer boots, but Lucas wasn't listening. He had a private investigator's report on his desk. It contained photos of Alex and Marcus. In one photo, they were sharing a single umbrella in the rain, both soaked to the bone, but they were laughing. In another, Marcus was handing Alex a cheap plastic cup of coffee, and Alex was looking at him with a gaze so full of adoration that it made Lucas's stomach churn. He looks different, Lucas whispered to the empty room. Alex's face had filled out. The hollow look in his eyes was gone. He looked healthy. He looked loved. Why hasn't he called? Lucas muttered. He's living in a hovel. He's eating day-old bread. Why hasn't he come crawling back for the life I gave him? Driven by a desperation he couldn't name, Lucas showed up at their apartment building a week later. He stood in the narrow, dim hallway, his $5,000 suit looking absurd against the peeling wallpaper. He knocked on the door. Alex opened it, wearing an old t-shirt and holding a dish towel. Lucas. Alex's voice wasn't filled with fear or longing. It was just, surprised. Look at this place, Alex, Lucas said, pushing his way inside without an invitation. He looked at the cracked ceiling and the small stove. It's pathetic. You're an omega of my house. You shouldn't be scrubbing floors and living in a cage. This cage has more heart than your mansion, Lucas, Alex said, crossing his arms. What do you want? Come home, Lucas said, his voice dropping, almost pleading. I'll fire the staff who were mean to you. I'll give you your own wing. I'll even let you keep your little hobby with the plants. Just stop this. You're starving. I'm not starving, Alex countered. For the first time in my life, I'm actually full. Marcus treats me like I'm his world, not his supplementary property. Marcus is a laborer, Lucas snapped. He can't give you the life you deserve. He gives me respect, Alex said, stepping closer to the door and holding it open. And since you're here, take this. He handed Lucas an envelope. It's the first payment for my family's debt. It's small, but it's clean money. I earned it. Lucas looked at the envelope as if it were poison. I don't want your money, Alex. You want your ego stroked, Alex interrupted. You want to know that I still need you. But I don't. Marcus makes me happy with a 5-cent candy bar. You couldn't make me happy with a diamond. Please leave. When Lucas returned home, Julian was waiting in the foyer, his face twisted in a rare display of unelegant rage. You went to see him, didn't you? Julian hissed. I saw the GPS on the car. Why are you chasing that gutter rat? He's gone. We should be celebrating. Because he's not a gutter rat, Julian. Lucas shouted back, his voice echoing through the marble halls. He's stronger than both of us. He walked away from all of this for a man who has nothing but a warehouse job. And he's happier for it. Julian stepped back, his eyes narrowing. You're falling for him. Now, after you spent a year breaking him. You're pathetic, Lucas. Maybe I am, Lucas whispered, looking around at his beautiful, expensive, empty home. Maybe I'm the one who's actually poor. Back at the apartment, Marcus found Alex sitting by the window, watching the sunset over the city skyline. Lucas came by, didn't he? Marcus asked softly, smelling the alpha's lingering scent. He did, Alex said, leaning his head on Marcus's shoulder. He offered me the world. Marcus stiffened, his heart hammering. And Alex turned, pulling Marcus into a deep, soul-searing kiss. I told him I already have the world right here. And Marcus, I'm going to pay off that debt. Every cent. I'm going to be a man you can be proud of. Alex, Marcus whispered, holding him tight. I've been proud of you since the moment you dared to stop crying and start fighting. You're not a second omega. To me, you're the only one. In the small, cramped apartment, there was a warmth that no amount of Northwood money could ever buy. The passage of a year can change the shape of a man's soul. For Alex and Marcus, that year was a forge, hot, grueling, and transformative. For Lucas, it was a slow, agonizing realization that some things, once broken, cannot be mended with gold. The morning sun filtered through the glass storefront of The Gilded Lily, Alex's boutique flower shop. The air inside was thick with the scent of damp moss, fresh eucalyptus, and blooming peonies. Alex moved with a grace that was no longer borrowed from silk, it was the grace of a man who knew his own worth. The bell chimed, and Marcus walked in. He looked sharp in a dark navy suit. He was now the head of security for a reputable noble family who treated their staff with the respect Lucas never had. "Morning, beautiful," Marcus murmured, leaning over the counter to press a lingering kiss to Alex's temple. "The shop looks incredible today. I have a big order for a wedding." Alex smiled, his eyes bright. He looked down at a ledger on the counter. "And Marcus, look. With this month's profit and your bonus, we have it. The final installment." Marcus took Alex's hand, rubbing his thumb over the small gold band Alex wore, a simple ring they'd bought together. "You did it, Alex. You paid back every cent of that debt. You're free." Lucas sat in his office, staring at a stack of legal documents. His life with Julian had become a series of rehearsed performances, expensive dinners, silent car rides, and a hollow elegance that felt like a cage. The door opened. It wasn't a servant. It was Alex. He wasn't the trembling boy in oversized sweaters. He wore a crisp linen shirt and tailored trousers, carrying himself with a quiet, lethal confidence. He placed a thick envelope on Lucas's desk. "The final payment," Alex said, his voice steady. "Including the interest your accountants insisted on. As of this moment, Lucas, I owe you nothing. My family owes you nothing." Lucas stood up, his heart thundering. "Alex, wait, please." He walked around the desk, his hand reaching out, then hesitating. "I've been watching the shop. You're doing well. I bought those blue delphiniums from there last week. I didn't send a driver. I went myself, but you were out. I saw the order on the books," Alex said neutrally. "Alex, I'm miserable," Lucas blurted out, the confession raw and ugly. "Julian and it's all just glass. It looks pretty, but it's cold. I realize now that when you were here, there was light. I was a fool. I was a monster. Come back. Not as a second Omega. As my equal. I'll marry you. I'll give you the Northwood name." Alex looked at Lucas, and for the first time, there wasn't even a flicker of pain in his eyes. There was only pity. "You still don't get it, do you?" Alex asked softly. "You think the Northwood name is a prize. To me, it was a shackle. You say you want me as an equal, but you only realized my value once I belonged to someone else. That's not love, Lucas. That's just pride. I can change." Lucas insisted, taking a desperate step forward. "I'll do whatever it takes." "You already did what it took," Alex said, shaking his head. "You drove me into the arms of a man who saw me when I was invisible. When I had nothing, Marcus gave me everything. Now that I have everything, I give it back to him. He doesn't want to own me, Lucas. He just wants to walk beside me." The door opened again, and Marcus stepped in. He didn't draw a weapon, he didn't need to. His presence alone, standing behind Alex, made the Alpha's hierarchy clear. He wasn't a servant anymore. He was the protector of the man Lucas had discarded. Lucas looked at Marcus, then back at Alex. He saw the way Alex leaned back slightly, his shoulder naturally finding Marcus's chest. It was a language of intimacy that Lucas could never speak. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating, until finally, the tension in Lucas's shoulders broke. He let out a long, ragged sigh. "I see," Lucas whispered. The desperation left his voice, replaced by a hollow, somber clarity. "He makes you smile like that. You never smiled like that for me." "No," Alex agreed gently. "I never did." Lucas closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them. "I've spent a year being angry. But seeing you now, I realize I didn't just lose an Omega. I lost the chance to be a better man. Alex, I am sorry. For the humiliation. For the words I used to cut you. For making you feel like you were a debt to be paid instead of a person to be loved." Alex paused, a small, sad smile appearing. "Thank you, Lucas. I've waited a long time to hear that. I forgive you. Not for your sake, but for mine. I don't want to carry the weight of hating you anymore." As Alex and Marcus walked out of the Northwood estate for the last time, Julian was standing on the grand balcony, watching them leave. His face was a mask of cold jealousy, but beneath it was a flicker of fear. He knew he had won the house, but he had lost the alpha's heart. Lucas joined Julian on the balcony. He didn't touch him. "They're gone," Julian said, his voice sharp. "Now can we finally stop talking about them?" "Yes," Lucas said, his gaze fixed on the small car driving away down the long driveway. "They're gone. And they're happy, Julian. We should try to find a way to be the same. Or at least, find a way to be real." In the car, Marcus took Alex's hand, kissing his knuckles. "You okay?" "I'm more than okay," Alex said, leaning his head back and watching the Northwood gates vanish in the rearview mirror. "I'm home." The second Omega was gone. In his place was a man who had planted his own garden, and for the first time in his life, every flower was in full, brilliant bloom.